I'm Robin Hodowns, and I'm with Localized Therapeutics. And today I'm going to tell you a little bit about our company, talk to you a little bit about the disease and market participation that we're in, along with some biologics. We're going to talk a little bit about our new treatment and also our exit strategies for the company. Localized Therapeutics, we're an R&D startup company that's developing an innovative rheumatoid arthritis gene therapy treatment. We're seeking seed funding of $800,000 to start our preclinical development, and we're a rather young company that started in January and was formed in January of last year. So I'd like to give you a little bit of introduction about rheumatoid arthritis. What is it? Well, it's a debilitating chronic autoimmune disease that basically affects multiple joints throughout the body. It's characterized by joint stiffness, joint pain, joint swelling, and the patient goes through times of remissions and flare-ups. And when a flare-up occurs, they seek treatment to help reduce or eliminate those symptoms because they become very debilitating and their quality life and activity level is very well reduced. There's 3 treatment options for rheumatoid arthritis. There's the NSAIDs, such as Advil and Aleve. There's DMARD, which is a disease-modifying drug. That's methotrexate. That's typically a second-line drug that they take. And then there's a new class of drugs over the last decade called biologics. And rheumatoid arthritis biologics is basically based on a gene drug that people inject into themselves on a regular basis to keep that drug in their system to alleviate the symptoms of rheumatoid arthritis flare-ups should they occur. These biologics are really good. They help provide effective symptom relief, but they do have some very interesting side effects.
Humira can lower your ability to fight infections, including tuberculosis. Serious, sometimes fatal events such as infections, lymphoma, or other types of cancer have happened. Blood, liver, and nervous system problems, serious allergic reactions, and new or worsening heart failure have occurred. Before starting Humira, your doctor should test you for TB. Ask your doctor if you live in or have been to a region where certain fungal infections are common. Tell your doctor if you have had TB, hepatitis B, are prone to infections, or have symptoms such as fever, fatigue, cough, or sores. You should not start Humira if you have any kind of infection.
Ask your doctor if Humira can work for you. This is Humira at work.
That is directly from a Humira commercial. And what you heard about is all of the side effects that could occur. So wouldn't it be wonderful to take the gene drug that provides that effective symptom relief, but then also reduces and eliminates those side effects? And that's what our gene therapy treatment will do. And I'll describe how we do that a little bit later. So let's talk a little bit about our business model for the company. We plan to follow a very traditional drug development process where we're developing our treatment through a preclinical or phase 1 stage. We plan to patent each of our gene therapies for every disease that we work on and provide a gene therapy for. And then we plan to take those gene therapy treatments and license or sell them to a strategic partner who can then bring them to market. We plan to obtain revenue from those structured deals by either milestone payments as well as royalty deals at the end or an acquisition. In addition, we do plan to provide or apply for non-dilutive funding and grants, so we can actually start on new disease indications so we can begin to build a pipeline of gene therapy and continue to add value. As a data point, the NIH is providing almost $265 million of funds each year for the last 3 years for SBIR grants for gene therapy projects. So we're trying to get some of that money. So what's the typical drug development process? We thought it might be helpful, given I'll be using the term preclinical and phase 1 clinical trial. Well, as you can see, it starts with discovery research, ends with a sale and launch of the drug to the market. As I mentioned, Localized Therapeutics plan only to try to develop our gene therapy through the phase 1 clinical trial where we believe an exit could occur or we could start obtaining revenue. We're at the point now at the start of a preclinical phase where we need some seed funding, and ideally we hope to work and get a deal structured with a partner at the end of our phase 1. So clearly, working with a commercial partner is very important, and essentially we're acting as an early stage R&D arm for the commercial partner, which, by the way, is typically how pharma companies today operate in the market. So what is this market for the biological drug, for the RA biologics? And that's what we'll be competing with. In the US, $17 billion are spent on RA biologics today, servicing 1 million patients. On average, that's about a $17,000 per year cost per patient to have those RA biologics. 3/4 of that market is by 3 companies, 3 different biologic drugs. And as I mentioned earlier, they have very positive effects, but they also have severe side effects as well. And up to 50% of patients need to stop using them because of those side effects. So there is a market opportunity there of people who would like to get the benefits of the RA biologic but not have the side effects. And the fact that we're looking at this market because the Humira and Remicade gene drug is coming off patent. And we're going to leverage that gene drug into our gene therapy treatment. So we talked about the dollars, now what about the patients? We're going to focus on the US, Canada, and European markets. And in total, that's about 4.5 million diagnosed rheumatoid arthritis patients. The same biologics are available in all of those regions and countries around the world, but we actually think Europe may be an easier market entry for us because their nationalized health systems really look for treatments that are lower cost and provide the same effective treatment option as, than other treatments. So we believe that there's a large potential rheumatoid arthritis patient population that we could address. So now how do we compete with those other biologics currently on the market? Well, as I mentioned earlier, those other biologics require injections multiple times throughout the year, and that's to keep that gene drug in their system because it's actually manufactured outside of their body. So you have to keep injecting yourself with that gene drug so your body can have the effects of it. Typically for these drugs, you have to inject yourself weekly or biweekly versus our solution, and I'll explain why, you only need 1 injection per year. And then the way you activate that drug and get that body in your system with our gene therapy treatment is to apply light. And this is unique to the market. No one else is currently applying light to activate a gene drug in the market. And we believe our cost is going to be half or less than half the cost of the current treatments. Again, you're only getting 1 injection, and you're having a light device to apply the light, and you're making the drug inside your body. So we believe we could compete very effectively and actually disrupt this market with our new gene therapy treatment. So let's talk a little bit about gene therapy. What is it? Well, a gene is a short segment of DNA. And this short segment of DNA actually produces a protein, and it's that protein that helps alleviate and treats the disease, helps alleviate the symptoms and treat the disease. So gene therapy, different than a biologic, is that you take that gene, you inject it directly into a human body cell, and then the cell's activity actually turns on that gene drug so it starts producing that protein directly in your body. So it's a very promising new area of medicine that's coming, but there are some concerns right now. The gene produces for years once it's in your body. So once it gets activated by your cell activity, it just keeps on producing that protein and keeps on producing it. That's a problem. It also can disperse throughout your body, and that is what...
What's the problem? Why is that a problem?
Because as it travels throughout your body, it starts to affect and produce that protein in other areas and organs of your body that will cause those unwanted side effects. So for example, it's an autoimmune drug. So as it affects your immune system and it goes to another area of the body and starts producing that protein to block your antibodies, that area of the body could become infected. Ergo, all those side effects that they talked about earlier. So we need to overcome these concerns. Well, guess what? We have the solution here. Localized Therapeutics has the solution. As I talked about earlier, we plan to leverage those genes from the current biologics with those positive effects. That's this little DNA sequence up here on the right-hand corner. We add our proprietary technology called the laser gene switch. And that is a unique DNA sequence that is attached to this therapeutic gene that turns on the gene when light is applied. So how does this work? Well, you apply near-infrared light to the area where this gene has been inserted. As the light hits the cells, it activates the cells. A biochemical process within the cells causes our laser gene switch to turn on. And then once our laser gene switch turns on, it activates that therapeutic gene, which then produces the drug naturally. We've made this safe because it's now not traveling throughout your body. We've made it local because it's injected in the joint where the drug is intended to relieve your symptoms. And it's controllable because now you can turn it on and off. And the gene, we've learned from documented scientific research that it actually stops producing over a period of about 12 or 24 hours after the light is taken away. So now you have an off switch naturally and the on switch with our gene switch when you apply the light. So what would a patient go through? So what is the treatment regimen? Well, first of all, you'd go to your healthcare provider. They would inject our gene drug into the joint that you are having your flare-ups in. You would then get trained by a healthcare professional and obtain a light source device, ideally a wrap. Something we'll be manufacturing that will be easy for the patient to use, and it will likely be like a rechargeable battery. And so then what will happen is as a flare-up occurs, the patient, or as the symptoms of a flare-up begin to occur, the patient would take their light source and let's say apply it to the area where they've been injected. And we found that a typical prescription is about 10 minutes per day, twice a day. So as the flare-up occurs, you begin to apply your light, and then you can repeat the application of light until the symptoms of your flare-up goes away. And then you can stop activating the gene drug. So now, again, the patient has localized the gene drug. You've turned it on when you've needed it. You've only got it produced when you need it during your flare-ups. And it'll naturally turn off. And you don't have that gene drug producing all the time naturally now. So if you think of the difference between taking an aspirin and a gene therapy, when you take an aspirin or an antibiotic, it's in your system, it's out of your system. With a gene drug, typically it turns on and stays there for years. So now we can get the benefit of a gene drug with our light application by keeping it local, only producing it when you need it, and having it turn off naturally. Safe, effective, and local. So what's the value now to the healthcare system? Well, clearly, patients enjoy this. They don't have to inject themselves every week now. It's easier to use, you just apply light daily, and it's lower cost, which of course makes the insurance companies very happy. They want treatments that are going to be lower cost and easy and effective for patients to use. So we really do benefit everybody in the healthcare system. Now, what's the value to a potential partner? So this is the pharma company or the biotech company. Well, as I mentioned earlier, those biologics for the two largest biologic drugs are coming off patent. We are going to provide these pharma companies an opportunity to have an effective therapy for the same disease, but at improved performance. So now they're going to have the ability to have a drug treatment for rheumatoid arthritis that's not going to cause those side effects, cost less, easier for the patient to use. It's also a large market. Obviously, $41 billion biologic market worldwide. Now you can have either the company that currently has that biologic that's coming off patent can take advantage of coming in with a product to get additional revenue, or you can have players that maybe doesn't have this type of biologic to come in and participate and take some of that market share. And of course, some incremental revenue and profit to the companies. If only 3% of those diagnosed RA patients use this drug, it would equate to almost $1 billion in revenue for a pharma company. And as I mentioned, up to 10 or 57% of those patients can't use it because of the side effects. Now there's a treatment option that could be available to them. And if you look at that $1 billion of revenue and assume the typical COGS of those companies are around 25 to 30%, you now have a gross margin that they're adding to their bottom line of about $750 million. That's a blockbuster. So how did we get to where we are today? Well, Max, our president, worked on a project at a U of R that actually utilized UV light in a similar type of treatment, and found that the UV light didn't get the kind of results that was necessary to make it a viable treatment to go forward. So that project was closed in January of 2011. So Max thought about it and said, what if I used near-infrared light? It's safer, and now I've got to see if it provides a response to those laser gene switch sequences to see if I could activate drugs. Well, he did some early research, got some data that gave us very promising results that we could activate these sequences with near-infrared light, and is now very confident that we could produce a successful therapy going forward, given some additional research and experimentation. And of course, as a result of that, after he got the promising data, formed the company and then filed the provisional patent. So what was this data? Well, he screened 21,000 potential sequences that could be attached to that gene to activate it. 21,000. And the set that's circled in the upper right-hand corner is the set of sequences that we'd like to use our seed funding for and further optimize and identify the top performers so we can continue our clinical development. What's exciting is that they actually proved that they respond to the near-infrared light.
Can you repeat that?
What is exciting about the data is that he's demonstrated that these sequences do respond to near-infrared light, which would then, with further research, translate into the ability to activate the gene to produce the protein.
Yes, the sequences are activated as a light-inducible promoter. Treat the cells with the light, extract RNA, show that the RNA containing these sequences is upregulated. So it's a typical microarray experiment.
Thank you.
Okay. So what's our IP status? Well, we've filed a provisional patent in 2013. An initial search showed no patents that we're conflicting with. And again, given that we're leveraging the gene drug, there's no IP issues there because they're coming off patent in 2015 and 2016. So now what's our development plan? How do we plan to move forward here? Well, we have a very detailed, milestone-driven plan over the next 18 months that our $800,000 seed funding will be used for. It'll take us through external validation in cells as well as some early animal testing. And that gets us to a really good point to begin to go out and start talking to potential strategic partners and demonstrate the effectivity of the concept. In addition, we have created a 7-year plan. And this is the plan that, again, is very milestone-driven through animal cells, some manufacturing of the drug, as well as the phase 1 clinical trial, to get us to that point where we believe an exit could occur. So after our $800,000 of seed funding, we'd expect some additional rounds of funding of about $2.5 million to finish our preclinical development, and about $7 million so we could get us through the phase 1 clinical trial. How are we going to use these $800,000 of seed funds? Well, clearly, research is very important in the beginning. So those first 2 items of research personnel and the lab facilities, almost 80% is dedicated to research. And then about 20% is just for running the company and the normal business operating expenses. And here's the team ready to go once we get the funding. Max has over 25 years of experience in this area, both running research projects, biomedical engineering, genetics, molecular biology. We've got a team of researchers with specific areas of expertise ready to go once we get the funding in laser research, genetics and molecular biology and laser engineering. You have Dave Braverman and I, which combined have over 50 years of experience in sales and marketing, business development, business management in both large and startup companies. And we have some advisors that have both a medical background that can help us from the clinical aspects, as well as a gene therapy expert, who's Ansha on the right-hand side, who's actually a research scientist at George Mason University. And then, of course, we do have some part-time support functions set up to assist us as we move forward. Partnership is key to us. Clearly, we need to take it through our phase 1, but then we need to attract a partner. And especially partners who have a partnering interest in the chronic inflammation area, which is where rheumatoid arthritis falls. We have identified a prospect list of over 20 of pharma companies, but we're prioritizing the top 5 to be AbbVie and J&J. Those are the 2 that own Humira and Remicade. And then looking at Pfizer, Merck, and GlaxoSmithKline, because they also have an interest in the chronic inflammation area, but have had most of the activity to fill their pipeline in terms of deals over the last few years. Once we attack those 5, then we'll relook at our lists of pharma and gene therapy companies and begin to prioritize them after that. Naturally, we need to get the word out about our company and about our new gene therapy treatment option. We plan to get introductions to these companies through our network of contacts and through help from folks from this class and, external to this. And we also plan, as the research is going on, Max and his team will write white papers and, of course, get in front of scientists and companies at industry seminars and conferences. So again, we can have the introductions and begin to build the awareness about our new gene therapy treatment and the success. So what is our exit strategy? As we hit a phase 1 clinical trial or when we're done with the preclinical stage, we plan to strike a deal to either license or sell to a big pharma company. There has been studies in the market of pharma and biotech companies where we've gotten reports over 400 deals over the last few years at the specific stage where we want to strike the deal and what those upfront payments are likely to be. And they range anywhere from $8 to $20 million. We've also looked at what when it was disclosed, what the total deal value of those could be. And that could range anywhere from $50 to $400 million. It's hard to predict right now, but that's the general area of a total deal value. And that would consist of not only upfront payments, but potentially additional milestone payments, and then eventually royalties on sales at the back end. So now let's look at the financials. How would an investor make money? Well, we have to look at multiple scenarios because we can't predict accurately exactly where we'd strike the deal. So we said, well, what would it look like if we struck a deal for an option to buy at the preclinical stage? And in that case, what would have been invested in the company up to that point? About $4.7 million. Assume we get the $8 million upfront payment. That would equate immediately to almost a 2x return. And then the total deal value, or if this was an option to buy, we would expect a value of our company to be in that $50 to $80 million range. In looking at the licensing options, if we were to strike a deal after our preclinical development stage, again, the investment would be the same, the upfront payment is estimated to be about the same, and again, you'd get an initial return of about 2x. Except in this case, as someone would come on to license it, to hedge the risk, they'd like to have you do more research and would likely fund that through some additional phases and pay you milestone payments until then they actually acquire the full rights to the gene therapy. That total deal value is anywhere from 80 to 300 million. And then the last thing is if you wait longer and reduce the risk for the partner even more by licensing or striking a deal at the end of phase 1, your upfront payment goes up because you've de-risked it further for them. So that would be about $20 million estimated as an upfront payment. And then again, that deal value could range anywhere from about $100 to $400 million. And in the licensing scenario, there's typically royalty payments of sales. And as I mentioned earlier, 3% of patients using this product could equate to $1 billion of sales for a pharma company. And as you saw, $5 billion for Humira, $4 billion for Remicade, that's not unlikely. So that equates back to, at a 5% royalty rate, which is pretty standard for these deals, $50 million back to the company and the investors. That's a pretty good return. So now we're not just a one-trick pony with our rheumatoid arthritis gene therapy. We do have plans for future diseases. The gene drug that Humira uses and Remicade uses has also been demonstrated to help other chronic inflammatory diseases such as psoriasis and Crohn's disease and others that are listed here. So immediately, as soon as we get some additional funding or non-dilutive funding, we're going to build out a pipeline of those gene therapy products, patent those unique gene therapies, and then look to go through the same process, sell or license. In addition, we know that our technology is really a platform technology, and we could also leverage this laser gene switch capability and either license it to a gene therapy company who may want to make their gene therapy safer, or we could actually license in gene drugs and ourselves develop them through the phase 1 clinical trial and bring it to market. So there's some options there from a licensing perspective of the platform itself. So in summary, our gene therapy treatment is game-changing because we've taken a good gene biologic and made it safe, effective, and local in a unique way and an easy-to-use way by the patient through the application of light. It's a huge market. Early experiments demonstrate the proof of mechanism, so we believe that we're on our road to success for a successful gene therapy. It's going to lower costs for the entire healthcare system, and it's a potential for a large return via a license or a sale. We've hedged the risk by using an existing gene, near-infrared light that's proven to be safe, and now all we need to do is our research to find that optimized light-inducible promoter sequence that Max talked about to make our gene therapy successful. We hope you'll help us with $800,000 of seed funding to help create the successful, new, safe, effective gene therapy treatment. Thank you.